The Football Manager 26 beta is out, and there are a lot of opinions about the state of the game. I typically only wait until the full release of the game to pass judgment, but I am setting up a video where I answer all of your questions about Football Manager 26 and what I think of it. This is not that video. The video might actually already be out. If not, it will be out very soon. This video is explicitly looking for things that we did not know were in Football Manager 26. And I'm not talking about the bugs. I'm talking about things that I like. I know. I know. I know. Are we done? And the first thing that we did not know was in Football Manager 26 that I think is an incredibly cool quality of life improvement. Once you fight your way through the bugs, you find yourself on the squad registration screen. A screen that, quite honestly, has always been incredibly stupid and frustrating on old Football Managers. You had a bunch of statuses for different players that were often hidden and stacked on top of one another, but now you can actually go to the left side and just click foreign players and it will show you only the foreign players. This is not some complex filter system like the one they have over there where you have to learn how to speak Braille in order to operate it. If you're looking for under 21 players, if you're looking for homegrown players that are grown at your club, all of that's going to be available on the left side. All you have to do is click on it and it will narrow your player selection down to those dudes. This is great if you have a brain like mine that just can't figure out the old screen no matter how much you try. And it should help you prevent accidentally registering an under 21 player when you didn't need to, and so on and so forth. It's such a good idea. I don't know why they didn't put it in earlier, to be honest with you. Especially when they're on vacation, it hides all the statuses. Where's the U21, brother? And because there's been such a huge overhaul to every part of the game, in case you hadn't noticed if you're playing the beta, there's a lot of cool little and big things like this that are hidden throughout the game. And that is what we are unearthing in this video. Number 2, one of my personal favorites, on one of my least favorite screens so far, the tactics screen. It and I just haven't really gotten along since the game was released, but I have discovered that when you go to in possession and out of possession, where there used to be a heat map because of all of the different possibilities within possession and out of possession tactics, when you click this over here, it will show you where players are likely to pop up. So if you're ever curious as to what is happening here, this will show you where players are likely to pop up, depending on where the ball is on the field. Obviously, this kind of yellow indicates that they're going to pop up there sometimes, while this green with Rayon indicates that he will very consistently occupy these 3 quadrants of the field. Sectors, sections, areas. So this can very quickly help you diagnose the fact that, gee willikers, Batman, there's only one person that's going to be covering this area, or something like that. Well, wow, we really do have the middle of the field completely taken care of. Although it's nobody's primary responsibility, we've managed to basically break the UI with the number of players that are in this spot. But to be perfectly honest, I find this more helpful in the out of possession tactic, because this shows me the most confusing part of the tactics so far for me, which is how far are these defensive roles dropping? If I put them on a tracking defender, where exactly are they going to end up? Well, this is going to tell me where they're going to end up the most, where my midfielders are going to go, how far forward they are going to press. Like if I am attempting to apply serious pressure, this is going to help you construct the press by making sure that you have players, plural, that are able to cover all of these different areas. And obviously here in my Twitch save, we're in lower league Uruguay, so we're not pressing super hard because we don't have legs. This is true. We're struggling in the save right now because there are no legs in Uruguay. If you have any legs that you would like to loan the Twitch save, please feel free to tune into the streams and loan your legs. Thank you. The third thing that you didn't know was in the game that I actually find to be one of, if not the best UI screen in the entire game, is when you go to squad, where you're controlling everything that has to do with your squad, and you go to discipline, which is either down here or through the drop-down menu. In discipline, you get an incredibly detailed list of all of the disciplinary infractions that have occurred on your team. In terms of the code of conduct, if anybody happened to run afoul of the code of conduct, which I'm early in my save, and my players are disciplined. They understand discipline. They understand what it takes to draw, apparently, because we can't win a damn game. They get it. Anyways, this gives you a list of all recent offenders. It also gives you active and potential bans. So it helps you keep track of it all in one place of the players that are on the border of being suspended, helps you manage, your active bans flowing through each competition, and of course also gives you a one-stop shop for your history of players that maybe are getting in a lot of trouble so that you can read and react to that. And it's not just yellow and red cards. You get tackles, you get fouls, you get number of appearances, and it tracks the suspension and code of conduct violations that are presented on the other screen. Is it an unbelievably game-changing development? No, of course not. But it is definitely a nice and very useful screen that is way more useful than Football Manager's ever had when it comes to this disciplinary stuff. The fourth thing that we didn't know was in FM26. That's the opposition report. This is when you're in the portal and you just zip over to the opposition report. This is a wonderfully organized data presentation on the team that you are about to play. To me, one of the things that is most dissociative about Football Manager, I've been doing word of the day. I've been doing word of the day at the end of streams and paying attention. But that dissociative thing is when you are playing a team in real life, you usually are much more prepped about the opposing players and what you are about to see. Where in Football Manager, you really had to seek that out aggressively. Now through the portal, there's this opposition report, which gives you information on the manager, the most notable players on the other team. Obviously, if you want it, it gives you detailed analytical information as long as you have those analysts as part of your coaching staff, which if I have them in the second division of Uruguay, you probably have them too. And you get all your basic information, obviously, the day, the time, the competition, the stage. But if you want to seek out, let's say, set piece analysis, because you really want to get in the weeds and manage that aspect of how you're matching up against each individual team, you can do that. And it's very easily accessible. It even has this incredibly useful formations faced tab so that you can assess how different formations have fared against what they're doing in the past. Your analysts are kind of on fire in this opposition report. Expected tactic, expected tactical style with a visual aid. Like I've already just assessed the fact that this opponent that I'm playing against is terrible against narrow tactics. I think we're gonna go ahead and use that. Of course, FM26 being FM26, there is a visual glitch in terms of the goal times area. They score all of their goals from 76 to 90. It's not even worth putting anything else at the bottom. How dare you? But assuming that sort of stuff gets patched up, this is a treasure trove of information that is easily accessible, that helps you learn about the team that you're about to play against, and is basically always worth a visit. The fifth thing that we didn't know was in Football Manager 26. It happens in the calendar, and it's a level of integration that previous Football Managers just didn't have. I'm not an expert. I would imagine it has something to do with the fact that it's on Unity, so it's easier to load these other screens in. But if you go to the calendar, you then look up at the top left. From the calendar, you can switch it to training view. You do not have to go all the way to training to adjust your training. You can just go to calendar through the portal, flip over to training, and then make all of the adjustments to training that you want. Of course, the actual UI of the adjusting of training is arguably my least favorite screen in this UI in the beta, but at least you can get to it very easily to save you some time. There's also, of course, the fixtures section available, and they all go back and forth and load pretty easily. But an integrated calendar, training, and fixtures area is definitely a step forward. It's very useful. The sixth thing we didn't know was in Football Manager 26 is kind of a savage addition, but it's a lot of fun. If you go into the club section and then you go to performance feedback, which is just part of, obviously, the way Football Manager's been played for a long time, you get feedback from your board, and then more recently, feedback from your supporters as well. You can actually go through different tabs. You can go all the way to squad, which is what I wanted to point out. Because if you go to supporters on the squad section, you can actually see your supporters' general opinion of every single player on your team. This is obviously savage because for a couple of my players, they are actually disappointed. In one player, Christian Tabo, they are very disappointed. Not necessarily because he has the lowest match rating, that would be Agustin Vera, but because he's supposed to be so much better than that. He's supposed to be the team's star. So unlike some FM editions in the past, this is not something that is just a direct feedback loop tied to the match rating of the player itself. It is more reactive than that and gives you an actual fan's opinion on the player based off what the fans expected that player to be. This is also obviously a good way to see if your new signing is hitting the ground running and everybody loves them, or if the fans agree with you that that player happens to suck. I'm looking at you, Tabo. I'm looking at you. The seventh thing we didn't know was in FM26 is actually something I noticed when we were going through the tabs of FM26, when SI was going through the tabs of FM26 and we were watching in one of their trailers. And that was something called match rules. And we speculated at the time that this was a set of rules for when you were instant resulting or simulating matches. What I said I hoped it was a section that would just lay out in plain English the rules of the competition you were about to play in. And that, fortunately, is exactly what it is. Whatever competition I am about to play in, this is a section I can go to that will give me all of the general competition rules that I need. Is there extra time? Does it go to penalties? How many subs am I able to make and how many subs can I get on the bench? And if I want to change it to another competition that I happen to be a part of, I can do that. Obviously, this sort of section already existed in Football Manager. It was just harder to find, and it wasn't synced up with what you had coming in your next match. Maybe I am literally the only person on planet Earth that finds this useful, and if that is the case, so be it. But I always hoped there would be a feature like this in the game, and now there is. So I am mildly happy about it. Mainly because I always think a cup is going to extra time, and then it goes straight to penalties. I can't read. The eighth thing that we didn't know was in Football Manager 26 actually has to do with the new transfer system that they have. So if we go to recruitment, and you can see at the bottom there's the transfer room, which is designed to mimic the way transfer room is used in real life, where other teams can post opportunities where they're looking for a player that suits this, and you can of course post the same thing, which other teams can then respond to. What we didn't know about this feature is that if you go into the area and click on, say, Cologne needing a striker of any age who's a regular starter level, your general manager will tell you the players that you have that match that requirement, which is awesome. And then there's a quick release button to offer any of those players that are recommended by the general manager to the club that matches their requirements. So let's say I'm looking to get rid of somebody, and I can sort this by position. I want to get rid of a right back, and I can click through these different right back offer outs until, let's say, Herman Triunfo is available as somebody I can offer out, and then I can offer them Triunfo. The offering out system has objectively been one of the most broken things in Football Manager for a long time, and I am sure it will still kind of be broken in this game. But in past editions of Football Manager, you could just offer players out repeatedly, and you kind of had to learn how to speak the language of transfers to know when you had to take an offer and to know when you could get more money by offering out again. This is at least a step towards realism, and the general manager or your director of football, whoever you have assigned to handling this sort of thing, is a big help. The ninth thing that we didn't know was in Football Manager 26 has to do with contracts. It's another thing that's really going to help the way that I play, so hopefully it helps the way that you play too. But if you go to recruitment and then you look around your different panels, there's going to be a big one called contracts. And you can see, obviously, it lists out the players you have under contract, how long they're under contract. That's not what I'm talking about. If you click on this, you can actually sort the players on your team by the percent of your wage bill that they occupy. This is not a piece of information that was easily accessible before on Football Manager. They're basically saving you a lot of trouble and a lot of math. And you can very quickly jump into a team and assess who is occupying the biggest percentage of the wage bill. And this allows for some serious money ball here, because you can obviously work out the highest percentage of a wage bill that you want one player to occupy, or what percentage of your wage bill you're spending on defense, midfield, attack, on your non-starters, on your starting 11, however you want to do it. But you now have a quick, easy way to see what percentage of the wage bill each player occupies. And you also have your advice section off to the right, which gives you a reason. Right now, it's either recently signed a new contract or financial position not strong enough. Those are the only two reasons not to re-up a contract with one of these players. But obviously, if they add more detail to that part of the game, that would be nice too. And that would turn this tab into something that's very useful that I would look at all the time. Right now, I'm just going to use it to look at the fact that Christian Tabo is wasting my money. And the 10th thing that we did not know was in Football Manager is actually pretty well hidden. If you're in the portal and you're in the messages section, right? Let's click messages right here, even though you can see it in the overview too. There's this star right here. If you click on this star, you can actually summon your staff advice at any time. So let's say that, there's 3 days left in the transfer window. I hope my recruiting advice has changed. I can click on my recruiting advice and pull it back up at any time just to see the different actions and observations. Or maybe it's the middle of the off season and I want staffing advice, and normally I have it turned off, but now I can summon up that staffing advice in a new window just instantly. Or I want to check my development just because I'm worried that somebody's not developing well. I want to see if my coaches think the same thing. Your staff advice is now always super accessible, which to me is more realistic because you can just just turn around and go, hey, Bob, what do you think of that guy? Instead of having to wait for your advice to come through every week, every 2 weeks, every month, or maybe you just have it turned off entirely. If you have it turned off, you can still hit this star, just in case you ever need it. Honestly, I might do that. I prefer my staff advice on demand. You're damn right. We knew there were going to be some cool things from FM26 that we couldn't glean from the tutorials, and these were some of those cool things. If you found other ones, feel free to leave them in the comments, as well as your thoughts about the game. Of course, that video with me telling you my thoughts about the game and answering your questions, that's probably already out by the time you're watching this. If it's not, it will be out soon. So I'll see you on stream, and happy FMing. Wait, no!